So yeah, we can do this any way you want to. Do you want to be fed questions
Yes.
or?
Feed me, Mandrake.
So why don't you introduce yourself first, Dean, and tell us a little bit about what you used to do before you became an old man and retired.
Well, I'm about to get out of retirement, so,
Oh,
but that's another story. Um, so I guess the reason why I'm here, why Jim asked me, is because I was a production assistant on Paris, Texas, which is the film everyone's talking about in these little boxes right here.
all six of us.
Excuse me, cut that out. Um,
No, there's no editing. It's all just going to go up raw.
Good God. Okay. So yeah, so I was a production assistant. I was 23, I think. I was going to UCLA. I met a friend there, and she was a huge Wim Wenders fan. And she had been writing letters to Wim Wenders, like fan mail for years, and finally he returned, wrote her back, and she's like, "Oh my God, I got a letter back finally." So he came and saw our student projects at UCLA because it's like, "Oh, I went to see your movies, Allison, and your friends." So I got to sit in a like a little UCLA projection booth showing my project one to Wim Wenders when I was 23. And he said, "Oh, very well shot." And I had also shot Allison's, and so he liked that too. And it was like very cool. And then a few months later, Paris, Texas was going to production, and Allison said, "You have to let us be PAs on your movie because I'm Allison." This is Allison Anders, director of Gas Food Lodging and Mi Vida Loca, and et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so
Border Radio,
co-director of Border Radio with me, which I shot. So he said yes, and we got on as production assistants, thinking it was going to be like this fun adventure, and we were going to learn so much. We'd always be on the set next to Vim, and
yes, his greatness would rub off on you.
Right. This fantasy that never really, I mean, maybe partially, but yeah, being a PA sucks.
Is it worse than being first assistant director?
Oh, no. It's a lot less glamorous. But yeah, I have first assistant director stories from Paris, Texas. Claire Denise, who became a filmmaker in her own right. She was first AD on Paris, Texas, and she was terrible.
Oh.
She was a director. And she was trying to, I'll be a, assistant director to Wim Wenders. I mean, not terrible, but her communication skills were awful. And an AD is all about communication skills.
Right.
Like 99.9%. She would like go on the walkie-talkie. I'm talking trash about someone dead who's a brilliant filmmaker. Oh, well. But she'd go on the walkie-talkie and say, Gordon. And my name was Gordon on the set because there was Dean Stockwell, Harry Dean Stanton.
Right.
And I was the third dean. And it's like, well, you're the least important dean. So what's your middle name? And we'll call you that. So anyway, she's like, Gordon, I want you to. And then you go, and I'm like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? I already told you. Stop repeating me. Or, and then she'd start panicking. And it was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And I was running, like holding traffic or like picking up cigarette butts or bringing Wim Wenders coffee, waiting for a train. Like, the train's coming.
Right. So you can get that, the crossing shot.
Right. And the scene where they're looking at the hotel room, the dolly, the camera dolly's out. And who is it? I guess it's Travis walking out. And the train comes by right in time.
Right. Yeah.
That was me.
Ah.
Train guy. Train spotting.
Train spotting. Yes. We could make another one.
Yes.
Okay. And so yeah, what so the both of you were there were a couple of other PAs too, right? Or did they not last as long as you guys?
Well, there was from UCLA, it was originally going to be me and Kurt and Allison, and Allison in the lead. Kurt was her boyfriend, the co-director of Border Radio. But right about the time that we were, set to go, Kurt and Allison had a huge fight. And it's like, I hate you, and I'll never want to see you again, and fuck off. And so she's like, Scott, you want to come with us? So Scott Kirby, who became an assistant director to Vim, he AD'd Wings of Desire.
Okay, great.
And he's been working with Terrence Malick on like several of his. So he became like A-list assistant director.
Right.
I'm sure much better than poor Claire. But but that also became a big conflict. But that's I don't know if you want to get into that.
No. Okay. So yeah, we were talking before I figured out how to start recording. We were talking about the two male leads, Harry Dean Stanton and Dean Stockwell. Do you have any interesting anecdotes or stories or feelings about them?
We all really loved Dean Stockwell because he was like just this normal, nice guy. And he saw we were like, first time PAs, film school folk.
Right.
So, we weren't like set folk. We were like all pie in the sky, and, we were thinking this was going to be just this like the wonderful experience, which it was in many ways, but it was also like disillusioning.
Mm-hmm.
Like filmmaking is this like messy and sloppy and mistakes and
Tedious.
Like, tedious. How do you make a movie with all this crap going on? But he was just like our like Uncle Dean,
mm-hmm.
And Harry was very cool, but also he could like be very like distant and aloof. Not aloof, but he was in his own head.
Mm-hmm.
Especially considering the role he was playing, a crazy guy stuck in his head. So I really liked them both. And actually, after we finished shooting, Harry invited Allison and me to come to what's that place called? This like private club, and it was in East LA back when East LA was super dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
All the Beverly Hills actors would go to this place because no one would like no paparazzi would go there. Helena's, it was famous.
Okay.
And so so we got to go and sit at Harry's table, and he got plastered. he was a big old drunk. God bless him. Didn't drink on the set at all. He was like, when I'm working, no drinky. When I'm not working, watch out. And I think at some point he became like, AA and got rid of all of that stuff.
Right.
But I love
Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, right. We actually went to Dennis Hopper's party. Okay, this is kind of cool. Months, maybe a year after Paris, Texas was finished, I'm sure it was a year, Vim called Allison and said, you want to come see a screening of my latest movie? So we went to the, what was it called? With this photo lab, deluxe, fancy, no longer there. And so we sit down in Wings of Desire, fresh off the negative, like a first answer print.
Yeah.
But really well timed. And it was like glistening black and white. And just the stereo sound of all the angels singing and stuff like that. And Alice and I were just both like, oh, why didn't we work on this one?
Yeah, right.
And tears coming out. It's so fucking beautiful. Yeah, that was cool. And then we went to Dennis Hopper's afterwards for a party. That was cool. And we were still in film school. Like, this is great.
I was gonna say a little extracurricular activity.
Yeah.
So obviously the movie's about 40 years old now, and yes. You just recently rewatched it.
About 3 hours ago.
Yeah. How do you feel about it now as opposed to 40 years ago?
40 years ago when it first came out, I was like kind of like, whoa, blown away, Film was different back then. It was a lot slower, especially art films. There was no streaming, there was no internet, there was no cell phones.
You had to physically go somewhere to watch a movie.
Yeah, right. So I was very wowed. And then I rewatched it about a year or two ago. And I was like, whoa, this isn't very good. in a lot of ways. And it was also a really crappy transfer. So scenes would pop up and it'd be like really grainy. It's like, I don't remember it looking like that. What's going on here? Maybe it aged something. I don't know. So anyway, so today I saw the Criterion. Shout out to Criterion who did Border Radio.
Yes.
Plug.
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 Product placement.
Yeah. Put that like a thing on the bottom. Anyway, like a link.
We'll have a crawl for you.
There you go, glittering. So Criterion did like a fucking amazing job. It's like it pops up and it's like, Jesus Christ, it looks like the first answer print. And I got pulled into it. I mean, that's like the difference between a bad print or, and
right.
Pristine, you get distanced by bad quality and bad sound. It pops you out and then you can't really get into it. And this was like, got into it, but I was still, some of the dialogue to me is very blah.
Yeah.
Not good. It's like, especially, who I'm going to say, Aurora Clement was like not the best choice. I don't think, God rest her soul, I'm assuming she's died. Maybe not. I don't know. Look that up. Cut that out.
I'll look it up.
But I found her character very like flat and like, why is she French in LA and like a fancy living in the valley in some crappy track home? It's like, she's like someone that would be on the red carpet at Cannes. And why did she marry this guy who does billboards?
Yeah.
She's like Smith style. It didn't make sense. I mean, it should have been Roseanne or
I would pay to see Roseanne in a Viv Wenders flick.
God, wouldn't that be brilliant?
Or John Waters.
God, yes. Yeah, and that's one of the, speaking of, that's one of the things that did kind of like go like, on a lot of the scenes was like, just so serious. Why? Come on, like just throw some irony in, get goofy. And
Wenders can do humor. I mean, he's not particularly a comedic director, but he can do humor. There's humor in Wings of Desire.
Yes. And there's a little bit in Paris, Texas, but very little.
Very little, not enough. Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. And
it did by the end, by the time we got into the little rooms with the mirror, I kind of got hypnotized and into it. It was like, oh, okay, good.
So was all of that shot in a studio in LA or what?
No, it was shot in Port Arthur, Texas, where Janis
So
Joplin,
it was where it's supposed to be taking place.
Well, it was supposed to be in Houston, but they found this place in Port Arthur. I don't know how far that is away from Houston. Look it up on the map, somebody. But that was all in this old fucked up restaurant. Port Arthur is so depressing. It's like,
I found Texas depressing, but let's continue past that.
Yeah. That's a whole nother. That's another 40 minutes. But it was, it had this cool main drag that was basically frozen in time from like the 40s and 30s and 50s. Kind of a mixed smash of that. But everything boarded up, and no one there but like people wandering around that looked like they were, coming onto or coming off of hard narcotics.
Yeah.
So there was some interesting stuff in that scene, and some really disturbing stuff. And I don't know if it was intentional, but
you mean the two big monologues from Nastasha?
It's crazy. It's like he finishes his, and she says, "Okay, now let me talk." And I'm
right. I'm going to tell
half an hour. Hers was a lot shorter. But I remember sitting in the watching dailies, because they invited anyone to come to dailies. So I came in and people were kind of like not watching it by then because it was near the end of the movie and people were all tired. And it was literally 6 hours of a close-up of Nastasia Kinski. Reel after reel after reel. And the producers were there. They came to see some stuff. And they were like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. This is insane. And this scene is incredibly long, but it is powerful.
Yeah.
There's something weird about it. There's something Sam Shepard-y about it, because obvious reasons. But I also did find it a little misogynistic, but maybe Sam Shepard has a bit of that in his work.
Well, he's gone too, so
Yeah, no,
you can
goodbye,
say
Sam.
anything you want.
Yeah, God, he was a beautiful man when he was young. Anyway, that's another whole nother.
Yeah.
Okay. But what was I thinking?
So yeah, like how was the direction for that? Because you're got that tiny little set. I'm assuming no, it's not open on the other side. So it's like two little boxes with a mirror in between it.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of the walls were pull away.
They were okay.
Yeah, of course, like when they turned around to look at Harry through the glass.
Yeah.
Obviously pulled out the back wall and brought in all the shit. And the other way around, they pulled out the door.
Yeah.
You know, because they had some dolly moves in there.
Yeah.
And that was all stuff that was like amazing to learn. Like, oh, that's how they do that.
Right.
You know, and of course, no one was on set for that stuff. I remember, you know, everyone was outside. And I remember one time I was outside, kind of like waiting, drinking coffee, and Nastasia Kinsey comes running out in her little pink sweater suit dress, in tears, just like running past everyone to her trailer. And I'm just like, okay.
Somebody said something cruel to her.
No, I'm sure she was just caught up in the scene and like got like. Vim is an incredible gentleman, like just the sweetest. He would never say a bad word to anybody, I don't think. Even to get a performance, I don't think. I mean, and maybe that's why his performances are all kind of gentle and soft.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wished in that scene, and I don't know how much you want me to talk about how I would have made it. Probably not so much. Maybe a little bit. Anyway, I thought there should have been more like fuck you. How could you do that to me? You know, maybe I don't know, throw something through the window. Or
yeah. There's a reason she set him on fire.
Yeah, and why did she like come to the window and go like, Travis? Like, he was abusive. He was awful. He was insane. Yeah. And you were insane for staying with him. And why didn't he say something? I don't know. It's also like just like la la la. Hello. I'm like, it's a cowbell and there's flames I'm running through, and I don't know. Okay, so enough criticism.
Enough of that.
Yes.
Let's see, what else have we got to talk about? I had mentioned, I thought somebody had told me, it may have been you, it may have been come to me in a fever dream, but I thought somebody had said at some point that it was all shot in sequence. So it involved a lot of traveling back and forth. Yes. Whereas usually with a movie, they do everything in one set.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's all mixed up. It's about what set is available for this amount of time.
Yeah.
And shoot the whole set out, and then you move on to the next location, and then you shoot that set out, and then you just keep doing that. So you shoot all the sets out. Mm-hmm. Which, makes a lot more sense. But for this, apparently Mr. Wenders rewrites during all of his films. Like from day one, he'll be like just rewriting it, inspired by what's happening, the location, the actors, etc. And so the whole reason for this was for everything to change and flow as it went along, because it wouldn't make sense to rewrite a scene that happens near the end of the movie when you're shooting, near the beginning, but you got to shoot near the end because you're at the location that's at the end and the beginning.
Right. The script has to be pretty much set at that point if you're going to do traditional.
Yeah. Then you just like fill in the slots. And this was very organic and following the feel of the movie. And
so there was a lot of travel involved.
Well, it was I drove the what was it called? The Vim van.
The Vim van.
Yes, which was basically a big Winnebago. Allison and I drove because Allison didn't have a license then.
Yeah.
So we drove. I drove the Winnebago with Vim's stepson as well.
Oh.
Me and Allison and what was his name? Anyway, he had a bit part in Wings of Desire. Nice kid, really smart, troubled. Vim kind of like took him under his wing, and so we drove all the way to Big Bend country and met them there on the set where they were shooting those opening shots of the the desert where you see Travis and those
Right,
giant.
from the eagle point of view or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So of course no one was on the set for that except for like Vim and Robbie and a helicopter pilot and
Yeah.
But I got to see those dailies. The first thing was like, oh my God. It was so like incredible. So we went from there to let's say like mid Texas for all those like shots of Travis wandering around and Walter. Yeah, Walter.
Yeah, Walter is Dean Stockwell's guy.
Yes, trying to find him.
Yeah.
And then they get to the airport. They can't get on and I'm actually in the airplane in one of those windows.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm actually in the movie. You can't see me.
Yeah,
but I'm there in spirit. It's like we have to fill the windows just in case. No one can see anything.
Realism.
Right. So then we drive back, to LA and film.
But obviously it wasn't a real flight. They just rented a plane for the afternoon.
Which was total like product placement from Muse Air. Is that still even around?
I don't know. I didn't recognize it.
Yeah, but that's how you get shit like that. And the cars were from Avis Rental.
Right.
We got like 10 of those blue sedans for the picture car and for just driving people around.
Right.
All three because it's product placement.
Of course.
Yeah. So then we drove back to LA, did all the LA stuff, then drove all the way back to Texas, and then to Port Arthur, which is all the way on the east end of Texas.
Right.
And ended there. Actually,
did the team ever go to Paris, Texas?
No. And I think that was intentional. Like you can never go home or never.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is kind of it's like, yeah, you sure can't in this movie. It's pretty down. Like it's like this is it.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as life, not like fuck.
It's brutal. I guess Paris, Texas is in the northeastern part of the state too. So
yeah.
It's sort of out of your bailiwick. How about, do you have anything interesting to say about, or how was it working with Robbie Miller?
Also an absolutely lovely man. I could ask him any questions because what he would do often, most of the time, was he would go on the set, talk to his gaffers and his electric and grip and guys. And, okay, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then he would come out and sit and have coffee. And half the time I would like sit next to him and just talk to him. And not always about lighting, but just about, and he was really nice and very, giving. And I used a lot of, especially watching this time, it's like, oh my God, that is a shot from Gas Food Lodging. Like, exactly. So.
Influenced a bit?
Just, a little teeny bit. But no, he was a genius and so like modest and just normal and like whatever, not a maestro and didn't wear like a beret or anything.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, I had something to show you, by the way. Let's see.
Wait, no, look at me.
Oh, there we are. We both have them.
There we go. Twinsies.
And I think I'm going to scan the group photo. We might use that as a still or something.
I have a picture of me on set.
Can you send me a scan?
I can send you a
or a picture, I mean.
Yeah, for sure. The gaffer, no, electrician took it at me. And I am really cute. It's like, oh my God, I look like that.
To be 20 again.
Jesus Christ. Now I'm 60.
Anything else you want to say? I think I'm going to stop the recording here, probably.
Okay.
Hold on. How do you stop it? You must go. There we go.